Welcome back for episode 2 of Building Every Lightsaber. Today's build will be the lightsaber of Grand Master Yoda. Behind the scenes, Yoda's lightsaber first appeared as a digital model in Attack of the Clones, and later reused in Revenge of the Sith. It was based on a fan design that was popular around the time of The Phantom Menace. It wouldn't be until 2021 with the Book of Boba Fett where it was finally built as a physical prop, 19 years after its debut. In universe, it is unclear if this was Yoda's only lightsaber, though it is possible that he could have had several due to his long lifespan. He built his first lightsaber sometime between 846 and 796 BBY, and its green crystal came from the planet Ilum. Yoda's lightsaber had a simple design that follows the design language of many of the lightsabers from the original trilogy. It has a short handle proportional to its wielder, an extended emitter shroud, and a section of wide grips. And running along the middle is a black band with controls built into it. To build Yoda's lightsaber, I started on my lathe. Instead of creating the band separately and slipping it over a solid metal handle, I decided to create the band as part of a central core. I carved both the flared emitter section and 2 spacers for where the metal sleeves would eventually go, and then the raised control band, all out of the same oak blank. When it was turned, I used some tape to give what would end up being the exposed sections a smooth metal finish. After that, I painted the core with a high gloss black spray paint. I used an inch diameter pipe that I found at the hardware store to build what would be the metallic sections of the handle. I cut them both to length, and thankfully they fit absolutely perfectly over the wooden core. I purposefully left the threaded section at the bottom of the grip side of the handle, as the true prop has this textured edge. I covered the threads with chrome tape and carved in the lines. Because of the threads underneath, the texture wasn't perfect, but I still liked how it looked regardless, even if it wasn't exactly accurate. I used a piece of PVC pipe for the grips. I cut them to length and sanded them and painted them with the same high gloss black paint. I used the same method to build the buttons on the control band. On the front part of the saber's control band, there is a shrouded switch that vaguely resembles the clamp box section of the flashgun lightsabers. I used a piece of sheet metal, cut it to the proper size, and bent it into shape to resemble the shroud. I then glued this to the handle and painted it again. For the emitter shroud, I used the remainder of the metal piping that I used for the handle and cut it to the proper shape.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Once it was cut out, I saw how it would fit onto the handle and bent the middle and ends slightly to give it the proper shape. The emitter shroud on Yoda's lightsaber is not perfectly circular, and therefore it is important to flatten it slightly and curl the end so that it looks right. I used some chrome tape on the inner side of the emitter shroud to hide the brass finish of the inner pipe, as well as adding chrome tape to the emitter and what would become the pommel to allow them to appear like exposed metal. Yoda's lightsaber, along with many of the prequel lightsabers, do not have the hole in the emitter that would otherwise have been expected. This is because they were built on lathes, so for the sake of detail, I left it flat as it was. I glued the buttons and the grips to the handle using Gorilla Glue, and used some tape to clamp them down while the glue dried. Unfortunately, I used electrical tape, which ruined the paint, so I had to mask off the metal parts of the handle and repaint it that way. Fortunately, my masking job turned out great, so it ended up being a momentary setback. The final addition before assembly was to add the green glass beads to the buttons. In place of beads, which I couldn't find in the right color and size, instead I elected to use 2 faux gems that I found at the craft store, and I glued them on. I then took each of the separate parts and fitted them into place before gluing them into the orientation that suited the original prop. And so, Yoda's lightsaber was complete. I love Yoda's lightsaber, not only for its simplistic design which fits the character, but also for its great behind-the-scenes history, starting life as a fan design that became one of the most iconic weapons in the series. Due to its size and Spartan appearance, the build ended up being remarkably easy, and it was fairly cheap as I only used about 5 inches of the oak wood and a single chrome pipe, with all the other materials being things that I had lying around, and also leaving a bunch of materials that I could use for future builds. I'm super happy with how this came out, and now that it's nice again in New England, I'm excited to build many more lightsabers over the summer. As a certain cyborg general would say, this is a fine addition to the collection, even if the collection is only 2 so far. As always, thank you to my patrons who support everything I do here, and thank you all for watching. I will see you all when I upload next.